So where did we go horribly wrong? Hands up if you recognize this stat. Yes, it's so-called forgetting curve. A guy called Ebbinghaus, 1885. I say so-called because he wanted to investigate memory, and he got together a list of what he called trigrams, which were gibberish syllables like XFP. And he gave people a list of those things, and he asked them to remember them, and then he plotted how long they could remember them for, and he found that almost all of those trigrams were forgotten very quickly, and he called it the forgetting curve. But it's not. It's got nothing to do with forgetting. All it shows you is one thing, which is that the human mind throws out gibberish. That's all he discovered, is that the human memory is not designed, in fact it's very effective at throwing out rubbish. And yet, this is the problem, is that this was taken to be the forgetting curve. This was supposed to show you something interesting about memory, and he discovered that you could force feed people gibberish by getting to repeat it over and over again, which has now become rote learning. So lots of people are talking about spaced repetition and how you can hammer home really meaningless corporate garbage by getting people to repeat it over and over again. That's a terrible thing to do. It's monstrous, it's brutality. It's like hammering in a square peg into a circular hole. Instead of trying to figure out why it doesn't fit, just pound it again and again and again. If you don't believe me, you can try it for yourself. If you take a picture of this and show it to your kids and say, you've got a minute, let's say, to try and memorize as many of these as possible, what do you think they're going to do? I'd be prepared to bet good money that they're far more likely to remember the meaningful ones than the meaningless ones. Human memory is all about meaning, what matters to us. And we've known this for a long time. This was a piece of research from the 1970s, I think, from Barrow and Clark. It's probably the most powerful piece of research in memory that I know about. What Barrow and Clark found is if you make something into a story, you can improve memory for it 7-fold. 7 times improvement in memory for words if they got people to make them into a story. And of course that's what we do all the time. We tell stories. We like to share stories. We like to gossip. But science generally doesn't like stories very much. Why doesn't science like stories?
Because of variability.
Yes, they're inexact. They're variable. They distort. But the point is, that's you. Stories are how you encode the world. This is a lovely piece of research by an organization called Brands.com. They looked at people's memory of the Starbucks logo. They asked people to draw it from scratch. And it's incredible. What they found was that people remember next to nothing except the fact that the presence of a woman in the color green. Our memories are remarkably poor. If you don't believe me, you can try it for yourself. Try and draw a £5 note from memory. You'll be astonished at how little of it you actually remember. So what's really going on? This guy, Donald Hebb, probably said one of the most important things to know, 1949, neurons that fire together, wire together. Anybody heard that expression? Some of you have. The basic idea is that as you move around the world, your neurons are constantly firing in response to what you experience, and they're forming new connections. But this leaves the central question unanswered. What is it encoding? What is it storing with those connections? Is it sounds? No, probably not, because people don't remember sounds terribly accurately. Is it sights? No, because we've just seen that your memory for what you've seen is typically very poor. Even people with so-called photographic memories don't remember exactly what they've seen. So I'm going to try and answer this question. What is it that your brain is storing all the time as you sit there now? How's it working? The answer is emotions. If I do something in this room which is emotionally impactful, you will remember it. If you look back on your lives, it will be the emotionally impactful things that you tend to remember. Your brain is storing only your emotional responses.